It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. Good of you to join the show. We're mid-show. We once again, it's the pre-show meeting, just carrying over into it. People should know he's Gary. I'm Eric. I don't know if I said that. I don't listen to the show, but people should know that it is true. From before the show and then all the way to our cars, we're kind of shouting at each other when yeah. And then if they do this, then the house will come back and and then we get in our cars and we drive away. We're still talking when we get in our cars.
A few times I'm closing the door and I have to hold it for a second as I'm yelling out the door.
Yeah.
Now you're next to me and your truck. You've got your truck, which is bigger than my vehicle, so. You're actually blocked from the cab of your truck from the direct line of the sound coming from my vocal cords.
Right.
So before I close the door, I'm like yelling up in the air, hoping that it reflects off the building and you can hear me.
Right. I have to, and because, my left ear is really not good. I have to, what I do is I stand up on my running board. I stand on my running board to elevate me before I actually get in so I can hear what you're saying. And then
I don't know if I don't remember the last night we walked out in silence, or the last morning that we walked out of here in silence when we got into our vehicles. Like, okay, we've had enough. Let's go. It's like bah, 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 all the way out.
I don't remember. I don't know if it's ever happened.
Well, I don't stop talking all the way to my vehicle, and then I don't talk again till I come in here.
Well, I wish that were the case with me, because then I get home and I'm anxiously awaiting my lovely bride to wake up and start her day, and then of course I wait for her to engage on issues. Again, I mentioned recently she does more show prep than I do, but she's paying attention to things, so she'll just. She's getting ready in the morning, hey, what, blah, 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 blah. And then we just get into it. I don't just jump in and go, hey, good morning, honey. Listen, here's what happened overnight, and then give her a rundown. I wait for her to ease into that because she's just waking up. So we have a conversation. I walk her out to the car, and I used to talk to my dog. Quite unfortunately, our lovely dog, Bella, has lost all of her hearing. She's gone completely deaf as a result of a brain tumor she's living with right now. But I still, I'm still kind of, I get, and I think I do this, whether there's any creatures in the room, I'm talking not at the, wherever I'm doing show prep, the phone or if I'm watching a video on YouTube, I'm verbalizing probably too often or too much. My doctor told me recently, he goes, that's a really long time to be talking every day. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it is. And
when I'm on, if you're not here and I'm on alone,
yeah,
my voice is almost gone by the end of the show.
I was up here Tuesday morning. I came back up here and had to do some other things. I was putting some things together and doing some public service announcements for a nonprofit, and it's a pretty long list of them. And it didn't take, in laying down the raw audio, it didn't take but like 20, 25 minutes. But at the end of the 25 minutes, it was like, wow. Of course, we had worked all night and done the show, but you feel it. You definitely feel it.
Well, for me, again, my Tiki's not interested in any of the issues whatsoever.
Yeah.
The only thing she seems to be interested in is economics, and that's, what is in her own self-interest. So it's food and going out to the garage, water, garage. So, we only basically talk things that would be considered economic issues with her, which again is economics is, people, how they respond to incentive and disincentive, and the incentive for the cat is food, water, go out to the garage.
Right.
And I say the word garage, and the excitement Cats, they say don't make facial movements, but when I say garage,
yeah,
I swear she smiles.
Yeah.
But, interesting day yesterday. First off, I thought this got me to laugh yesterday. Lindsey Graham posted this.
Okay.
He posted, I was excited to hear that President Trump is open to the idea of being the next pope. This would truly be a dark horse candidate. But I would ask the conclave and the Catholic faithful to keep an open mind about this possibility. Because the first pope U.S. president combination has many upsides. Watching for that white smoke. And then he has this audio from Trump being asked a question here about the Pope.
As Pope? I'd like to be Pope.
And, with Lindsey Graham, it's trolling the left, trying to get somebody or anybody or all of them, to respond and to react. And with the president, I think it's half and half. I think part of him actually wouldn't mind being the Pope. But tomorrow morning he might sign an executive order making himself the Pope. Look. What do I know?
Actually, who he said would be a great Pope was Cardinal Dolan.
Oh, yeah.
He said he goes that Cardinal Dolan. He just said the Archbishop of New York City was Cardinal Dolan, and I went, oh, that's interesting. So
yeah.
But what a day it was yesterday. One of the stories that I saw, which again, we're wondering where the Republicans are going to go on on the budget, on the whole reconciliation bill.
Yeah.
And this story and the response from Chip Roy on this, because I still think it's going to be a problem with conservatives now, because now this is about the reconciliation bill. This is about the actual budgets.
Yeah.
A proposal to create a $20 fee on most passenger cars is already in danger thanks to Republicans who loathe to create a new fee. But the fact is the idea came from Republicans. House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee Chair Sam Graves released the details Tuesday of his committee's contribution to the larger GOP mega bill ahead of the planned Wednesday markup, which included a $20 annual fee indexed to inflation. Graves said it is intended to lay the foundation for eventually doing away with the federal gasoline tax, which has helped pay for the transportation project since it was established in 1932. For now, though, the fee, which would be levied on gas-powered passenger vehicles, would be additive. Representative Chip Roy of Texas said, this is a quote, are you out of your freaking mind?
Yeah.
Roy said Tuesday about reviewing the proposal, like the party of limited government is going to go out and say, we're going to have a car tax?
Yeah.
You know what I was told? I was told, don't worry about it. We'll get rid of it later in the highway bill, Roy continued. He said the message he received is that the car tax is a gimmick to pay for all this, which then they're going to rescind, which will increase the budget, will increase the deficit. So we know they're not actually going to pay for it. That's how this town works.
Yeah.
Representative Eric Burleson of Missouri said when the committee convenes to vote on the matter, he is planning to vote no, calling the language problematic. He said Representative Scott Perry is working on an amendment that would modify the language but did not elaborate. But it showed the fact that even got
any consideration.
Yeah. Is just it's.
You know what it's like with the Republicans right now with me? It's like your teenager has come to you unsolicitedly and said, I'm going to clean and organize my room. As soon as I get back from visiting my friend, I'm going to come in, I'm going to clean, organize, and here's what I want to do. I'll show you. Here's the framework. I'm going to show you. Look, I'm going to do this, and then the room's going to look great. That's awesome. They come back from their visit with their friend and say, okay, I'm going to get started. And you walk in 20 minutes later, and then they've spray painted graffiti on their walls. I mean, it's like, what the hell's going on? What are we actually doing? You and I were talking in the pre-show meeting, just as the music was starting for the show, about the $150 billion, or is it now $100 billion, or any cuts?
Well, Trump's
right?
saying he's going to put back some of the cuts from Doge.
Right. Yeah.
And so we're like, well, you're at $150 billion, and we're hoping to just get 100. We had always said, just so people know, because we got criticized when we said this, but we ended up being right.
Yeah. Right.
It wasn't going to be $2 trillion.
No.
It wasn't going to be $1 trillion.
No.
We said if they get $100 billion, we would be absolutely ecstatic.
Right.
And it looks like because the $150 billion, because of cuts that are going to be made, maybe $100 billion. But if it's not reflected at all in the budget, if the budget doesn't cut $100 billion, then what the hell was Doge for?
Because I don't expect it to actually be reflected in the actual budget. I really don't believe it's going to be a true cut. And I hope I'm wrong about that, but I'm so confident. I'm just going to say I'm not wrong. It's not going to happen. I'm not wrong. I won't be wrong.
Well,
and we'll have basically Chip Roy will be the, we've been talking about this for years as we dwindle down to the true fiscal conservatives on Capitol Hill. It's our representation is very, very low. The numbers aren't there. The votes aren't there. Nobody is serious about it. They talk about this and blah, 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 and we're going to blah, 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 and they campaign and blah, 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 blah. And then next thing you know, they come back from the break and it's like, hey, we're thinking about putting a $20 a year tax effectively on cars.
Well, if you want to hand something to the Democrats, no, we absolutely will not. We will not. Now, we're against both, but I'm talking politically. We're not going to raise taxes on the rich.
Right.
But we're going to put a $20 fee for everybody who drives a car indexed to inflation. Yeah. By the way, I love the index to inflation.
Yeah,
I
right.
love that part.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love throwing that in. I love this. House Speaker Mike Johnson separately told reporters the proposed fee wasn't a priority, but also did not oppose the idea, at least publicly, said Representative Burleson of Missouri. We're trying to get the message to the leadership that there's got to be a better way to find the funds than to create a new national vehicle registration.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and you look at it, there is no indication. I think you may be pretty safe in your prediction because there's no indication, because there's no promotion. This is going to be the first budget where you actually see that we're actually going to make cuts. Mm-hmm. And so you sit there and you say, I mean, Elon, and I wonder, Elon Musk is now out of the White House.
Right.
That was reported yesterday.
Yeah.
You haven't heard his name on it. You don't hear.
He's literally phoning it in.
Yeah. You don't see major issues of what we're cutting from Doge or whatever, because the entire point is, are the Republicans and is the president actually serious about cutting? Was Doge just a public relations thing?
Right. Right.
Now, you and I are pleased with what they did.
Oh, I think having the discussion.
We're pleased at what we did. And we mentioned yesterday, Reason Magazine, the libertarian magazine, saying, okay, just the fact that they were able to do something.
Well,
and if it was $100 billion, and that was the number that we picked out, $100 billion. But our point has always been, and this came from our listeners, don't oversell and underdeliver.
Right.
Don't sit there and make this big to-do, because every day we were being told billions of well, is it going to be reflected in the budget? Otherwise, it means nothing.
Right.
Because that's like in our household budget. Well, I just can't afford those hockey tickets anymore. All right. Let's buy concert tickets instead.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Well,
it's great that you cut out the extra recreational hockey. Well, let's get another sport.
Yeah.
That's much more expensive. NFL tickets with the personal seat license.
Lacrosse. Oh, never mind. Yeah, it's but look, great approach. You have one of the most famous people on the planet take charge of Doge, but it's got to be frustrating if you're Elon Musk to see where this is, to know where this is going to go. Because he was doing, he's doing the work. And look, we had issues with the $4 billion a day, 1.4 trillion, 2 trillion, whatever. But we were having a discussion about it. And I'll say this. If we get to this point and there are no real cuts to the budget, it is over. Stop talking about it. I don't want to hear about it. Don't promote it. And if you're in the GOP, with the exception of a handful of people, including Chip Roy of Texas, I don't want to hear from you. Don't make promises. Don't say things you just need to talk about how much more you're going to spend. That's what you need to do, because that would be honest. At least that would be true.
We got a great show ahead. 866-90 Red Eye.
Hey there, this is Hope Zavara with Mother Trucker Yoga, and here's your health tip of the day. Healthy driver, healthy diesel, powered by Howes. Lower back pain is one of the most common complaints amongst truck drivers, with over 50% experiencing it regularly. Let's fix that. Sit up tall in your seat, inhale and arc your lower back away from the seat, like there's a pin behind you you're trying to avoid. Now exhale, round your back, and tuck your tailbone under, just like the shape of the letter C. Repeat that movement 5, 10, even 15 times until your lower back and hips start to loosen up and feel ready for the road. There you go. Small, simple changes can lead to big results so that you, my friend, can feel good again. Visit mothertruckeryoga.com and howesproducts.com for more tips and support.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh man, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the reconciliation bill is going to be. So,
yeah. I just don't. Again, I don't have any confidence on that.
By the way, the bill. This is what This is. This is how Congress does it. Gray's proposal would call for state departments of transportation to collect the automotive fee and remit it to the Federal Highway Administration. It wouldn't take effect until October of 2030 and would expire 4 years later unless Congress renews it. So they're putting something in at the end of the bill, which they say they're telling Chip Roy they're going to rescind anyway.
Right.
They're just putting it in to balance the budget now. To basically say, well, this income's going to be coming in, so we balance it now. So the CBO would balance it now, but then we'll rescind it after we pass the bill.
That's how you do it, right?
I mean, by the way, with that type of congressional accounting, you don't need Democrats anymore.
I'll add to it. They're not going to make a dime off of it because by 2030, Elon Musk is going to have all of us living on Mars. And we won't have cars.
Okay.
So,
well,
I mean, it's what I just said.
But then Democrats will introduce the Mars tax.
Well, I think there's already a Mars tax on the candy bar.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Well, it was an interesting morning yesterday, so I wake up. As soon as I wake up, I look, and the story's out there already. I'm like, wow, stuff is happening awfully quick today.
Right.
And it was the whole Amazon thing.
Yeah.
And Caroline Levitt already had, spoken on it. And I'm like, whoa, this thing, what's going on? And it was where Amazon said, no, this was an idea. They had not decided to implement it, but it was an idea so people don't blame Amazon that whatever product they sell, they tell you what amount of the tariff has for the increase of cost.
Right.
Yeah, and they would label it. And so you had Levitt come out and say this is absolutely hostile and political.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just see what she read here. What she said here. Why did Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years? And I would also add, it's not a surprise because, as Reuters recently wrote, Amazon has partnered with the Chinese propaganda arm, Levitt continued, referencing a 2021 article from Reuters. So this is another reason why Americans should buy American. It's another reason why we are onshoring critical supply chains here at home to shore up our own critical supply chain and boost our own manufacturing here, she said. I will tell you this. And then Amazon came out and said, no, we weren't going to do it. And Trump apparently called Bezos and everything else. And I started going, this was on X, and I started seeing all the stories on it, and I looked at all the comments. Almost to a T. Every single massive MAGA Trump supporter was completely and totally confused.
Right.
They were like, well, we want to know on Amazon
what's coming from China.
What's coming from China? We want to know what where the tariffs
Makes
are.
it easier to see the stuff or how much stuff is coming from China on Amazon.
Well, then we know what to buy that's American.
Mm-hmm.
And then the response came back, yeah, but you're going to find out that everything is bought, almost everything comes from China on Amazon. And it's like, well, then fine, we won't buy from Amazon.
Right. Right.
But if the entire point, as Levitt said, is to buy American, then you want to put the
you want to promote that.
You want to promote what the tariff is.
What's the idea of the tariffs? How do you shape or reshape industry if that is your goal? As a true protectionist, if that's your goal, then you do that by promoting it. And now my question would be, Amazon said they're not going to do that. Individual sellers make up a massive amount of the listings on Amazon. Are they going to prohibit individual sellers? And I haven't seen that they are, but can an individual seller in their listing,
in their description,
in the description say tariff-free? Hey, tariff-free, made in the USA, and, basically the opposite, in order to do what, again, those people who are protectionists want to happen. You want to. Trump has said it at every major presser. Hey, if you're manufacturing here, there's not a problem. No tariffs. Again, why wouldn't they want that to be promoted? I don't know.
It was the most confused on social media I've ever seen MAGA supporters, because they said it. They said, look, I'm MAGA. I don't want to buy from China.
Right.
I don't want to buy from foreign sources. So I want to know where the tariffs are.
Right. Right.
And then, like I said, the most common response was, yeah, but you'll find out that everything is made in China. And it's like, well, then fine, I won't buy from Amazon. But if the entire point is to buy American, as she said, and this was coming from the MAGA supporters, and I was blown away, and I'm like, okay, I wonder if they'll modify the message anywhere throughout the day, and they didn't.
Right.
And it's obvious because the MAGA community figured that out. They said, we want to know what the tariffs are.
Right, right.
If it's causing an increase in price, then we know it's made in China, and we can buy American.
Well, and if you're a protectionist, you want other people to know. You believe that driving those different choices for the consumer base is going to be the key to changing everything.
And the other response was, well, Trump said, I saw this after the ABC interview. Trump said prices aren't going to go up, so why would he worry about it?
Mm-hmm.
And these are coming from MAGA people saying, because they prefaced it, almost everyone was prefacing, look, I'm MAGA, and I don't want to buy from China. I want to buy from America.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see, I want Amazon to do that.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, the messaging. And by the way, as we predicted and thought would happen, because the domestic automobile tariffs were coming on May 3rd, the majority of those have been cut. So they realized that they couldn't do that.
Well,
so
the word was in the last week that the OEMs and dealership groups were pounding on the door every day, and so they've really been campaigning for this and begging the administration to do something different. By the way, I am aware that that if you've got a listing on Amazon, you can just put "made in the USA" or whatever. But the tariff thing is hot right now. Everybody's talking tariffs, and I could see listers or sellers on Amazon putting that on a listing saying, hey, this is tariff-free, made in the USA, adding that to
Wasn't there a couple of years ago a lawsuit when people said made in the USA when it was only assembled in the USA?
I don't know. I don't remember that.
I thought there was a lawsuit on that you have to be accurate when you say, made in the USA.
I would think in the advertising laws it would require.
There has to be a certain percentage or something.
Like all of everything from raw materials to the finished product have to be sourced in the USA.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it was.
I don't know how. I mean, I don't know what.
To me, on social media, it was the most confused that I've seen. The most ardent supporters of Trump.
Yeah,
because they were like, "I want that. I want to know."
Right. Because
I don't want to buy from China.
I want pressure on Walmart. This goes back, I don't know, several years, but it got louder and louder on social media that everything on the shelf at Walmart comes from China. And then that pressure, just the social media pressure, Walmart, by the way, I can't tell you what percentage it is. I don't even know what they're claiming now of the things that they source from China. But they came out publicly and said, we're going to buy more things from, the USA and everything else. If your consumer base is screaming, you have to change. That's your bottom line. And so don't you want people screaming? Don't you want people to know exactly what's going on? Isn't that the point of protectionism?
We were talking during the pre-show meeting. It was like, did they ever give an accounting of that, Walmart?
Mm.
And they said we're going to buy. We're going to buy more American products. Like, was there ever a story? Was there ever a story that came to the conclusion after a year? I think there was.
Yeah,
I believe there was. I believe somebody covered that because that goes back. How long does that go back? 5-6 years ago?
Yeah,
that was before COVID, I believe.
Right
when that whole thing came up.
Yeah, and right now the stories with Walmart and Target when it comes to buying things from China have to do with the tariffs, and so there's some things in the recent news. But I'll have to look into that. Everything's coming up from like the past few days because everything is about the tariffs. But if you look again at the dynamic, if you're trying to change behavior, that's the idea of protectionism. Is that the consumer will be driven on the price point, will be cheaper to buy domestic. Of course, up until yesterday, the automakers would have an issue with that because the raw materials thing and everything else that played into them rolling back a lot of what was going to be tariffed on cars. This is, again, what you're trying to do. You're trying to reshape. You're trying to manipulate the consumer into buying American-made, American-assembled. It's the entire point. And you want to promote it. Hey, look over here. American made, it's cheaper. That's not cheap anymore coming from China. That's the whole point. Protectionism, we can have the debate about it, but those are the basics of protectionism. Now, we've argued part of that debate is, well, the problem is that the domestic producers, right now the farmers are screaming. They want, here's the sentiment from the farmers right now. We're planting. We're doing what we normally do, hoping that the trade routes, that we're going to be sending this somewhere, that the trade routes will be reestablished or that the tariff thing will change at some point. Because they've seen the Trump administration change so many things on their own tariffs, they're hoping that's what they're doing right now. They're just crossing their fingers. There was one farmer association representative just a few days ago that said, we're not looking at a pending crisis mode. We're in crisis mode right now. So the problem with this, with the protectionism is that the domestic producers also want to sell abroad. They want those lanes to be established permanently. They want to be able to sell whatever it is they're producing to other countries. And also, if you're looking at, serving the consumer base here in the United States, well, they can raise their prices still. It doesn't necessarily need to be absolutely competitive on the price point. Only competitive enough to be less than the imported product that is factored in for tariffs. And the president in the interview saying, well, it's not going to cost more. Tariff products cost more. It's the whole point. If they didn't, there would be no point to tariffs. It's not to raise revenue for a government. I mean, it does have that effect. But it's ultimately, if you're talking about protectionism, it's about changing the habits of your consumer base so that there is, again, greater attention to domestic producers, and other producers would like to come here and become U.S. producers in order to, again, serve the largest consumer base in the world, the United States. So I don't know why they the administration seemingly counters their own ideology on this, because it is the point. The whole point is you raise the cost of goods, and the president has said that before. If you make it here in the USA, there's no tariff. So we want more companies coming here. That's the whole point.
Like I said, it was the biggest confusion I've seen on social media.
Yeah.
In the first or second term of Trump, the confusion that I saw. Yeah. Like, we want to know what the tariffs are. Mm-hmm. Then we know what's made in China or countries that aren't involved in fair trade with us. Mm-hmm. We want to know so we can buy American. And like I said, the biggest response was, you're going to find out everything is made in China. Well, then we won't, on Amazon. Well, then we won't buy from Amazon anymore. Right. We want that information. We want to know. And they were completely and totally confused as to the response from the White House on this. Right. All right. 866-98-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio. Toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, man, it was beautiful. Yesterday I saw that David Hogue was still going to continue with his fundraising in the DNC to get, to get rid of to primary incumbents in the Democratic Party. And after I saw that, a couple of hours later is when it came out that now they're going to try to kick him off of the second in command of the DNC. Mm-hmm. Why? Mm-hmm. The why is the beautiful thing that we will tell you about coming up following the top of the hour.
It's so beautiful.
It is absolutely the most beautiful thing you could possibly imagine.
It is just great.
Yep. Judge Dugan, what's going on there? The Democrats. We did the 100 days yesterday, but the Democrats, again, Schumer's out there. He's a mob boss.
Right.
They always overplay their hand, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They
always
lay the cheese on the burger too soon.
Yeah. 866-90 Red Eye.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hi.
Hello.
Well, an update from the story yesterday. The massive power outage in Europe, in Spain and Portugal yesterday is being blamed, or 2 days ago, is being blamed on a pair of likely solar plant breakdowns in southwest Spain, a report said. By 7 a.m. local time Tuesday, more than 99% of energy demand in Spain had been restored, said the country's electricity operator. Portuguese grid operator said on Tuesday morning that all 89 power substations were back online and power had been restored to all of its 6.4 million customers. The utility said it identified 2 power generation loss incidents in southwest Spain, likely involving solar plants that caused instability in the Spanish power grid and contributed to the breakdown of its interconnection to France, according to Reuters. The economic cost of Monday's blackout in Spain and Portugal was between 2.5 to more than $5 billion, said investment bank RBC. We have never had a complete collapse of the system, said the Spanish prime minister in a televised address Monday night. Did you see this? Emergency workers in Spain said they had rescued some 35,000 passengers on Monday who were stranded along railways and in underground tunnels.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, wasn't that a Stallone movie?
A video that aired on Spanish television showed people evacuating metro stations in Madrid and empty stations with trains stopped in Barcelona. Spain's parliament was also left in the dark. The tennis tour said
literally and figuratively.
Yes. The tennis tour at the Madrid Open tennis tournament was suspended due to the power outage. In Portugal, several subway cars were evacuated. Courts stopped working, and ATMs and electronic payment systems were affected. Traffic lights also stopped working during the outage. So
cats and dogs living together. Yeah, it was mayhem. It's by the way, don't they play tennis outdoors during the day? I'm just asking a question. It's what we have warned about, and what I think ultimately you'll hear from blue states. We actually lived through it in the freeze apocalypse, quite unfortunately, in our state of Texas. Massive energy producer, which should not suck at delivering energy, ever. But other states, blue states that don't want to do this, that are punishing traditional forms of energy, when they get to the point of more and more of their grid being powered by wind and solar, inevitably it's going to be regular brownouts and blackouts. And also inevitably, what you'll hear from them is, well, it's what we have to do to save the planet. It's the sacrifice you'll need to make. Everybody just set your air conditioner in SoCal at 95. You'll be fine. Don't drive your electric car. Remember the whole thing on the EV thing?
Oh, yeah.
And then, it's, hey, don't be charging your electric car this afternoon. They actually had to go in and I forget if they bought more electricity from a co-op or something. I forget what they did, but Newsom had to scramble. But what they'll try to do in the conditioning of the minds of the people is, well, this is what we have to do to save the planet. Yeah, well, it's all fun and games and rainbows and lollipops until people are trapped in tunnels, until people who need power, to live are in bad situations, which did happen here in Texas during Freeze-Pocalypse.
Yeah.
This is stupid. These are choices.
By the way, we don't know what the problem was at the solar plant.
No, we don't.
We don't know, yeah.
But it's inevitable that it's going to happen. We've already seen it happen here in the States. And you can't rely on wind and solar. The thing, the one official that said the other day in Spain, it was atmospheric, and I thought, well, wait a minute, what? What does that mean? Remember when Turcotte here in Texas put out the warning? Listen, there are going to be some clouds and also zero wind in West Texas today. Basically warning people that the solar and wind thing ain't going to happen today.
Yeah.
So you need to conserve. Why?
That should never happen
Ever.
in any grid in the United States or in any Western country. It should never happen, ever.
And we've talked for years about how, thanks to production of natural gas and the more and more use of natural gas, if you want to, by their own standards, when it comes to greenhouse gases, if you want to measure, well, when we were ramping that up with natural gas here in the States, we were crushing it. The greenies should have been happy. Oh, no. Why? Well, because it's big oil that's doing the natural gas. We need to go after the industry, because that's the idea. You cripple the industry so that eventually the Democrats can have their way. They can nationalize energy the way they want to nationalize health care. Those are two major chunks of the economy, but they're also control over people's lives, literally, in both cases. And that's where they're going. Obama told everybody, under my plan of cap and trade, electricity rates will necessarily skyrocket. Forget what I say about coal, whether it's good or bad. I will put rules and regulations on that industry, and they will have to pass that along to their consumer, the cost, and that will bankrupt them.
Yeah.
And he did just that.
Yeah. That was his goal, but his goal always was, and I'll never forget, because he had said that was in early 2008, talking to the San Francisco Chronicle, and he became president promoting the fact that he wanted to skyrocket electricity prices. And when we would say that, we would people, Democrats would be furious at us. You guys are making that up. Here it is. And we'd play the audio cut.
Yep.
Well, hey, man, he probably means something else.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And what I said there was almost verbatim.
Yeah, it is. That is almost verbatim.
And they were, and by the way, there was a court case, I think it was Michigan, where the energy company won against the Obama administration. And whoever the official was from the Obama administration was asked by the media, well, do you feel defeated? Well, no. The answer was no. They spent tens of billions of dollars changing to comply with our rules. They're not going to spend tens of billions to go back to the old rules to do anything different. So we won. You know, that's the entire goal. Cripple energy, cripple the private sector as much as you can to gain more and more control of the means of production. And when you control the capital and the means of production, that's communism.
And the president can put out all the executive orders he wants, but I saw Representative Luna yesterday saying, when is Congress going to act on all these executive orders from the president? Saw a couple of, saw an op-ed, or I don't know if it was an op-ed piece or editorial yesterday, saying, when is Congress going to get rid of the exemption, that allows California to basically control the EV mandate? Where's Congress? Where's Congress? Where's Congress? Where are the Republicans here? Why aren't they doing? You and I have asked the question. Nobody has an answer for it since the Inflation Reduction Act, which is still spending hundreds of billions of dollars on climate change crap. It was passed through reconciliation. Why don't the Republicans defeat it? We can't get an answer on that one at all. Nobody's talking about that. Why not? You're in power. You have the votes to get rid of something like that, or maybe they don't.
Yeah,
maybe that's why. Maybe they don't.
Maybe they don't.
Why? And if Republicans don't have the votes for that,
wow,
we're doomed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, seriously.
Because what we have right now, you look at the first 100 days, and Trump has had great successes. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff still up in the air that could be very challenging for Republicans over the next year and a half, economically speaking. But when it comes to the first 100 days, remember, it's also the first 100 days of having the president, the House, and the Senate. And the House and the Senate have done what?
Continued the Biden agenda with a continuing resolution.
Yeah, exactly. What have they done? They may do stuff. We're just asking. It's 100 days. Everybody's talking the 100 days. It's the 100 days of the House and the Senate too. What have they done?
Yeah, nothing.
How have they moved Trump's agenda forward? We'll see what's going to happen in the reconciliation bill. But right now, it looks like Doge. I have a question: is Doge done? And you and I've asked, will it be reflected in the reconciliation bill? Will we actually have cuts, or is this the last gasp? And if they don't do it, you and I believe it will never be done.
Right.
We're never going to be able to even attempt to start to get the budget under control.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like there's this energy except from a few people and few of the and here's the thing that we already saw it with Chip Roy, where the scream from MAGA was primary him, get rid of him.
Yeah.
Because he wants to cut.
Right.
What? So now if you want to cut, you're a rhino?
Yeah.
I mean, it gets to
don't get it.
I mean, that was just, and so if conservatives don't want to pass it, the few of them in the House, and they can't get it done, are they going to be, we need to primary these people who want to actually cut the budget?
Yeah.
There's a big challenge ahead there.
If we get to that point that you and I have been saying about reconciliation, that's going to be where the real test is. Because if the fiscal conservatives were told, look, you can fight your fight down the road, which was reconciliation, and they can't do it now, then it's over. I don't even think at that point the midterm means nothing.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Uncompensated detention at docks frustrates drivers of all stripes. If you're an owner-operator, you have at least some control over the matter. Make the subject a standard part of your rate and/or contract negotiations on the front end. You can use your own numbers to calculate an hourly rate to compensate for lost income opportunity, as well as fixed costs, which don't stop when the truck stops. Those two elements of a fair detention rate were deemed appropriate by most of Overdrive's audience almost a decade ago. We've used income, fixed costs, and miles average of our owner-operator business services from ATBS's clients to compute an average $64 an hour detention rate then. And 10 years later, the figure is $83 an hour. Use your own numbers to calculate your rate. A simple conversation with any broker or shipper or your carrier if you're leased about what you're putting in the rate might yield results you don't expect. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And this is the greatest story ever.
Okay.
The Democratic National Committee, well, maybe not ever, at least tonight.
In the last 30 seconds, it is.
Yes. The Democratic National Committee will consider a challenge to David Hogue's election as vice chair of the DNC following allegations that the February vote discriminated against 3 women of color candidates.
Oh, don't you hate when that happens? When your DEI comes back to haunt you.
Yes. Well, we remember playing all the DEI rules and regulations.
They went through them. Yeah,
it was like, what?
You know, it was, you know what it was, when they were going through them, it sounded a lot like Occupy Wall Street, you know, when they would, you know.
Remember when they couldn't figure out what to do because, well, nobody's a leader here.
Right.
Well, then how do we get the meeting in order? Who? Right. Somebody, you know, we need to follow.
Who's going to take the initiative?
The Marcus of Queensberry rules.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's not the Marcus who made that. That was for fight.
Yeah.
Parliamentary procedure is what it was. Yes, that's what I believe. That's what it was. And they couldn't. They didn't know who to put in charge. Yeah. Even to just administer the rules.
Well,
because nobody could be in charge. That was beautiful. I love that.
Right.
But Kaylin Free, a Native American activist and longtime Democratic Party operative, filed a complaint after her loss to Hogue, arguing she lost a fatally flawed election that violated the DNC charter and discriminated against 3 women of color candidates and calling for 2 new vice chair elections. The DNC notified its members on Monday that it will meet virtually on May 12th to consider Free's challenge. Free's challenge comes as Hogue is already facing intra-party backlash over his $20 million pledge to fund younger, more left-wing candidates to replace ineffective asleep-at-the-wheel Democrats in deep blue House districts. DNC Chair Ken Martin, who has publicly criticized Hogue's campaign, introduced a proposal last week that would require all committee officials to remain neutral in Democratic primaries, effectively forcing Hogue to end the funding effort or resign as vice chair. Oh, my gosh, it's just great.
Well,
he tweeted, by the way, Hogue, who became a public figure after surviving the 2018 Parkland school shooting, may also face charges of hypocrisy in light of Free's claims. He tweeted in 2022 that he was not running office and that we have enough straight white men in power.
Well, things change, right? Wow.
At the time he wrote, it's nice to see some people who actually look like our country and not privilege. Wow. In her complaint, Free argued that by aggregating votes across ballots and failing to distinguish between gender categories in a meaningful way, the DNC's process violated its own charter and bylaws, undermining both fairness and gender diversity.
Wow, the election was rigged.
Yeah.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Now, let's look at what's going on that pertains to my self-interest.
Okay. Golf?
No.
The bills?
No, money. This is money stuff.
Oh, okay. All right.
Money stuff. You told me that the Texas, was it the Texas House, Texas Legislature?
Yeah.
Whatever, is looking to even give me a bigger property tax break?
Yeah. They're moving to do that to put the exemption for 65 and older.
For seniors?
For seniors. I think the measure right now in play would double the current exemption. And the thought is, in the reports, and the common thread in the reports, is that what's being discussed is because you and I have always had an issue with property taxes, because there's always a lien on your home. You never actually own it. It doesn't matter if you pay your taxes today, then the lien for the next cycle starts immediately. And so they wanted, the GOP and the state wanted to, and I think the governor would love to get rid of property taxes, but you can't get rid of the revenue.
Well,
and if the idea is, all right, well, then let's take a look at what the taxes are for, who pays taxes, and everything else. And the sentiment behind this greater exemption for seniors is, all right, they've been paying these taxes for a long time. Even if you're renting, you're covering the cost of those property taxes for the property owner.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
absolutely.
So, yeah, we're fully on board. I'm not quite there yet, but in 5.5 years, I will be. And this is the idea, is that, okay, we can't get rid of them. If we can't get rid of property taxes completely, then we look to reduce them or maybe eliminate them eventually one day for seniors.
And then I'm reading here, Secretary Bessent yesterday, what to expect in the reconciliation bill. No tax on Social Security. Let's get that done by October 1st. And then let's get this property tax thing done too. Make that retroactive. The whole thing is make Gary rich again.
There you go. Well, look, I'll tell you this, and it's time gives you experience. Time, I'm trying to Kamala Harris this thing. Time is time. And the time that we have now will be different than the time we have later. But with time, there is more time to consider time to lower taxes for me.
Well, there is a negative here.
What?
The fact that these benefits that I've been receiving because I'm officially a senior, and the benefits that I could get, including no tax on Social Security, and again, fewer dollars going out for property tax. I get that because I'm closer to death. That's the negative.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the positive, but then there's the negative in it too.
It is,
it's a pretty big negative. I want to let you know that.
It does kind of suck. You work all your life to retire, and then you're at that point of, well, now my work is pretty much gathering all my stuff for my doctor so I can tell him everything that's going on, and I'm still not going to get it in the 2-hour visit with him. There's that. But as I grow older, I realize that we need to care more for seniors as a society.
Yes, I agree with that.
Older,
yes,
I have learned, because when I was young, I was stupid. I'm still stupid, but I am learning things, and this is one of those things that, again, as I grow older, it becomes clearer and clearer that we need to take care of our seniors. We always want to go back to Robert Reich. When was that, when he was talking at Berkeley?
I think it was 2007, and I want to let you know that the older I get, the more I disagree with him more than when we first played that audio cut.
Oh, yeah.
In 2007, 2008, where he said we need to let old people die. If we're going to have a medical system that can survive, old people have to die.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because over the last, that would be 2007, 2008, so over the last 18, 19 years, I tend to disagree with him more on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I would like to ask him, do you still feel that way?
Because he's older now.
Yeah.
Right.
Here we are 18 years later. Do you still feel that way? Oh, my gosh.
He was
Did you see the video of actor John Leguizamo? That he was ranting about something.
I heard he was ranting about something.
Well, somebody posted it. He's got all this gray hair. and then someone posted it and said, John Leguizamo's dad is really angry. It was hilarious. It was hilarious.
Yeah, he was. I forgot what it was about. He was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Blah, 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 blah. I don't know.
Yeah, he was. And then Robert Reich was out on Capitol Hill too. I think with the whole thing last weekend. Their 12-hour. Just see the sing along. Somebody sent me the sing along.
Yeah,
I got to find it because it was just like,
oh my God,
what in the world?
Yeah, it's just weird.
It just
things are so weird right now. The Democrats, have for the last 20 years or so, they've been weird, but they're getting weirder. They're like the people that you've come to the conclusion, we cannot invite them to the party anymore. We can't have them around other people. Yeah, I do wonder where it's going to go on the tax cuts or the Social Security tax. I really wonder where that's going to go.
Well, you saw what Besson said yesterday. I mean, that I think it was yesterday or the day before.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just find it here. Here's what to expect from Besson. 2017 tax cut permanent. No tax on tips. No tax on overtime. No tax on Social Security. American-made auto interest deduction. For business, full expensing for equipment, full expensing for factories, deregulation, cheap energy, regulatory certainty. How will they pay for this? He confirms that tariffs will work as a replacement for revenue for these tax breaks. So in order to what they say, pay for everything, they're depending on the American public buying from China.
Well,
God, it's all over the place.
Well, what's interesting, if the CBO were to score this, and they're not going to, but if they were going to score it, you would have to change it, huh?
They will score it. They'll score it eventually.
I guess they will.
Yeah,
I mean, depending on what Congress does. But I mean, here's the thing. Here's my question on that. Don't those numbers change based on the president's actions yesterday on automotive tariffs?
Well,
I mean, if you make the promise that it's going to, fund this and fund that, and then you say, oh, well, but we're going to rescind these tariffs.
Right, but I don't think they don't do that. They simply take
exactly.
They simply take if Congress says it's going to cost, hypothetically, $500 billion. Tariffs will bring in $500 billion.
Yeah, right.
Now I don't know if the CBO says, well, They may check the numbers and say, well, no, we don't believe that's true.
Mm-hmm.
The CBO could do that.
Right. Yeah, it's garbage in, garbage out with the CBO because they're relying on the garbage Congress tells them, which is a lot of garbage. It's a huge, heaping, steaming pile. Listen. My name is Eric Harley, and I approve the following message. If we're going to do this, let's just do it. I say tomorrow, we make everybody in America a billionaire. Not every family, not every household, every person. Now, it's a lot of zeros. I know that. But if we're going to go off the cliff, let's all be billionaires first. Now, it won't mean anything if we're all billionaires. We'll still be broke. And the nation will implode. The global economy will implode.
Well, I just find it interesting.
But if we're going to get stupid, then let's just get really stupid.
Well, I mean, when we looked yesterday, when Levitt came out and went after Amazon, and then the president called Jeff Bezos and said, no, it's unpatriotic and political or whatever it is, whatever she said. And like I saw so many MAGA people saying, we don't understand. We want to know what we shouldn't buy. And we can know that by, if there's a tariff on it, we know it comes from a country that the president believes is doing unfair trading practices with the United States, and then we'll buy American. So why don't you do it? And then she said, I want you to buy American, but then it looks like Congress and the president are completely behind. Buying products from China is what's going to fund what the Republicans want in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to have both.
Yep.
That's what's confusing.
Yeah. Right.
It's like I said, the confusion with MAGA voters yesterday was the most confusion I've seen on any issue. Because they went, well, I want to know what the tariff is from China.
Mm-hmm.
I won't buy it from. I'll buy American.
Right.
And as you pointed out, the whole purpose of the reason the prices will go up is because they're depending on people to buy from China in order to fund what the Republicans and the president want in the budget.
Right.
It's like it's all over the place.
Right. I mean, it's a big agenda item. Clearly, it is the item right now. Why don't you want it promoted by anybody and everybody?
Unless you want people to buy from China in order to fund the budget.
Right. If it's about funding, then make that case. But if it's about protectionism,
right,
and you want the consumer to change, I mean, then everybody should be promoting it. But the problem is it's about all of the above, and it really can't
be. Yeah. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Hey, we're going to play a couple of oldies but goodies next hour.
Oh,
it's
right.
Two things that we referenced.
Yeah.
And when we reference them, we got to let people, we have to, because there's a lot of people that are new listeners to the show.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric and I, years ago, played these audio cuts over and over and over again, but we haven't played them in a while.
Right.
And so when we make these allegations that these people have said these things before, we need to let you know that it's actually true.
Right.
That, YouTube exists and these things actually happen, and these people said what they said, and one is Obama, and the other one is Robert Reich, who we were just mentioning. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was up on Capitol Hill, Robert Reich, ranting and raving and just.
Did he do the sing-along thing?
I didn't see him in the sing-along.
Oh, okay.
But, man, it's just so bad.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the headline with Schumer yesterday where the Senate, 100 days, 100 days of chaos, he's a mob boss. Mm-hmm. Nobody buys that.
No.
Nobody buys Trump as a mob boss. They
right.
know he's a president, and they know the courts are involved in it. Congress will eventually be involved in it. And there is no mob boss. There is no Hitler. Stop it. It hasn't worked for you.
I mean, who would be closer to being a mob boss? Would it be Trump or, let's say, I don't know, out of the clear blue, the governor of Illinois, who's calling for disruption?
Oh, he got pounded yesterday.
Yeah.
He backed off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we just have to challenge. I'm going to.
Uh-huh.
No,
right.
You're trying to excite.
Did you mean it?
You're trying to excite your base. We went through the language that
so,
Pritzker used.
Yeah.
You're trying to. You're promoting violence is what you're doing.
Because that's where you corner him and say, "Oh, okay, so there won't be any disruption, right?" So because his base wants the disruption. It's why he said it. And then we want what? Oh, okay, then what do you mean? You're going to just talk? Well, no, that doesn't work.
Are you going to have a debate on the issues?
Right. Would it be televised on C-SPAN 4?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm just scanning through X, just seeing what's out there, who's posting stuff. Mm-hmm. You want to know why we're doomed?
Sure.
Here's why we're doomed. I come upon this post from the New York Post, and it's a Dear Abby question.
Oh, okay.
I don't have to go into the specifics of it. All I have to do is read the first sentence. Dear Abby, I've never met my long-distance boyfriend, but he's always asking me for money. You know where that goes. Should I send him money? I've been sending him money, and I don't need to go any further. That's why we're doomed. Somebody's writing, Dear Abby, I've never met my long-distance boyfriend. They're not a boyfriend.
I really wonder how. Look, the scammers are, I don't know, probably doing better in terms of what they do and being successful at it. They're probably doing pretty well right now because there's so many different methods, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But honestly, I wonder how many people out there get scammed, like a lot. That sounds like something at the Babylon Bee.
It does.
I have a friend who is he's a prince in another nation, and this is what friends do. We don't let you get scammed. He got scammed out of $5 million. I helped him out. Because I'm not stupid. I'm not going to get scammed like he did. I'm a friend. I'm doing the right thing.
I did see another story about some woman who had lost, I don't know, like $50,000.
Yeah.
Met somebody online. Oh, it was somebody who was pretending to be Keanu Reeves.
Oh, that's happened with a number of pretend celebrities. Yeah.
And she thought she was talking to.
Right. Because they use.
They used AI.
Their AI.
AI, left messages for her and everything.
What's very scary is because of Facebook and everything else, if you've got a family member that's posting videos or whatever, then they can take those videos and AI will duplicate the voice, the inflection, the cadence, and they can make phone calls. It's happened. And they've scammed grandparents and everything else. They didn't use his voice, but they called my dad and said, your grandson, we have him, we arrested him, and he needs bail.
Really?
My dad is a seasoned law enforcement officer, retired, and taught law enforcement and criminal investigation and is suspect of everyone, which is why I don't even ask him for money. And so he calls me a few minutes later. He goes, so let me tell you what happened. He goes, I know Trevor is there with you because we actually had talked about it, I think the day before, that my son and I were going to hang out. And he said, I know he's hanging out with you, but let me tell you what this scammer just tried to do. You know, they want bail money. This actually they were successful at doing this.
I've seen it.
You know, with a number of people, and it's usually grandparents. And because they prey on the elderly. And because, you know, I mean, again, as they become more sophisticated and as, you know, as we grow older, if you don't know, like the AI thing is something that, like, a lot of seniors, my mom is 87, my dad, they didn't use the AI voice in that case. But had they done that, I wonder what would have happened. My dad wouldn't have said, oh, yeah, I'll drive down with all cash and meet you in the abandoned supermarket parking lot.
Alleyway.
Yeah. Sure. Let me wire that to you right now. But I do wonder how far it would have gone and how concerned my father would have been. And there was a movie actually made about it. The movie was fiction. It wasn't based on a true story, but it was based on scammers. And my wife and I watched this movie, and it was a neat little movie. And then Grandma ends up getting revenge at the end. It was really great. But it's very sophisticated. But then there are the kind that aren't. You know, with the celebrity thing, using AI. Well, in one case, actually, it wasn't even AI. They used a picture of a celebrity from wherever as their profile picture. And all of a sudden, you know, the person believed it was them.
Well, this, for the one case of the woman, I can't remember. They did use AI because it was his voice. And I don't know, it was left a message or, Facebook message or Messenger or whatever it was. But she said, well, I've learned now I wouldn't be taken again. And it's like, but a Hollywood celebrity who you know is actively working and is rich beyond all means is asking you for money.
Right.
That didn't set off anything.
Right.
Or you just wish it to be true.
Right.
You wish it that I'm helping.
Well, it's, you get into the psychology of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense at all unless there is a massive emotional connection, that's at the basis of it.
Yeah.
Which creates delusional thought. I mean, it's, again, you're throwing out all reason. Well, no, I could see how he could be broke, John Wick 4 didn't do all that good. But it's and if you and specifically about him, if you are to believe everything that's said about him, he's more likely to give money away, not ask for money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But those are, I don't know. It is that's what they prey on. These are very sophisticated people. But it's not just, there's the emotional connection, right? If you have this adoration for, a movie star, athlete, whatever it might be, then they believe, the predator believes that you're more susceptible to that. But then there's the technology that they can use. And I mean, there are so many ways that they prey on people. These predators are relentless. Again, the Dear Abby thing, I've always, I only put a half.
They're as real as, does Penthouse still exist? I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
As are they as real as the Penthouse Forum?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing is that I think there's, there's a lot of embellishment there.
Well, I just looked and, I would suggest that anybody gets a call from Keanu Reeves that he needs money. I would suggest you just go to Google and put in net worth, and it's around $400 million. Well, so if it's around $400 million, people say it's not accurate. Okay, $300 million, he's still okay.
Yeah, right. Well, and I think on this one celebrity, it wasn't the Keanu thing; it was another one, and it was and they do this too. Even sometimes it's not even a celebrity name; it's they'll use the name of somebody that they may know that's not an immediate family member, as a friend or something, or a friend of a friend. And I'm traveling, and I'm trapped. None of my cards are working, and the only thing I need to get a plane ticket, and you have to wire me this money, and I'll get it back to you, I promise. And the methods are, again, I don't know. There's got to be countless methods, because they're just constantly thinking over and over again. I get calls all the time. We all do. All the time. The one that I get a lot, or not a lot, actually, lately, but I did get several times, was this electronic voice. You must pay this. And it was always a message. I never answered it. So it went to my voicemail. But I'd play the message, and it's the electronic message, the electronic voice. You must pay your IRS debt, or they will seize all of your property.
Yeah, I get the IRS one once in a while.
Which is garbage.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. You should pay your IRS debt, but they're not going to make that kind of phone call. This is, again, they wouldn't be doing this repeatedly if they didn't get takers, right?
Yeah, you're right.
We wouldn't be encountering all of this if they weren't making money at it. And they make a ton of money, and they're all over the world. All over the world. Highly organized. Highly organized.
I must have erased it. I got one the other day. I just looked at it. I can't remember what it was about, but it was something about, you need I know. It's the PayPal one.
Hmm. Oh, yeah. No, I get your Amazon account has been frozen.
Oh, yeah. The Amazon account I get in the pay and
or
PayPal.
Chase, because, Chase is a massive bank. Your Chase account has been frozen. Click here. And sometimes it's not that they, expect money. It's that they want to put malware on your phone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Or device. So they use everything. Because you freak out over, obviously, your bank account. And, I've actually had, someone scan a card. They said it likely happened at an airport. And they had a reader. They were able to, because I was in proximity, and they were able to basically scan the card, and they used my bank card. Luckily, it was a checking account that I didn't use much and had less than $100 in it. And they made 3 purchases. They started like $7, $8 purchases, then a $30 purchase. And then the bank actually called me and said, we need you to talk to you because this doesn't look right. But they know where, what will get people's attention.
Well, it's interesting, especially with my airline card that I, purchase all my airline flights and everything else on. And, every flight that I take before I go somewhere, my credit card company says, we know where you're going to be this weekend. So you're not going to have any problem.
Yeah.
So you go to another city, you do it. It's like, okay, we know you're there.
Yeah, right. Same. And I only take that card with me when I'm flying. My airline card. I only take that card. I don't use for anything else except my travel when I'm traveling.
Oh, okay.
So when I travel, I use that card.
I put most everything on that to get points.
Yeah.
To get miles.
Yeah.
Because I fly a lot. So
right.
And then I've got one of the. Do you have one of the RFID wallets?
Yep.
So
yeah,
I've got one of them too.
It's because again, the bad guys are. We talked about too the how they can also corrupt some of the charging ports, including public, places like airports. And they said if you're going to use a cable to charge your device, make sure it's charging in any port that's not in your home. Make sure that it's a charging cable only, not a data cable as well, because cables can be both.
Right. Now you're okay if you plug it into a regular outlet.
Right, just a regular outlet.
Right,
you should be fine.
If you've got a
charger.
charger.
As far as I know, I don't know if the bad guys have, come up with something.
I haven't seen that because
so.
I pay attention because I saw the one, and I do have a couple of the cables that are just charging only.
Right, and so those are again the very sophisticated ways that the scammers work. It's frustrating.
Yeah, it is.
It really is.
But the Dear Abby one.
That's
my boyfriend, who I've never met, is asking me for money.
Yeah.
Send him a lot.
Right.
866-90-RED-I.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Coney, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right. We had mentioned earlier in the show, both Robert Reich, former labor secretary for Clinton. Yes, an advisor to Obama. Man, I've been in talk radio a long time.
I know. When you said that, I thought, wait, oh, my gosh.
Yes.
But
And
Clinton is really old.
We had mentioned Robert Reich, and because he was on the steps with the Democrats the other day ranting and raving, and we said, this is the same guy that said the proper medical system, or the only way to have an honest medical system, is to let old people die. And whenever we say that, people go, nobody actually said that. No prominent Democrat. Yeah, he did. Berkeley, 2007. Here it is. And we've told you a lot, but we don't play the audio much because we played it so much way, way back then. But here it is.
I'm so glad to see you, and I would like to be president. Let me tell you a few things on health care. Look, we have the only healthcare system in the world that is designed to avoid sick people. And that's true. And what I'm going to do is I am going to try to reorganize it to be more amenable to treating sick people. But that means you, particularly you young people, particularly you young healthy people, you're going to have to pay more. Thank you. And by the way, we are going to have to, if you're very old, We're not going to give you all that technology and all those drugs for the last couple of years of your life to keep you maybe going for another couple of months. It's too expensive, so we're going to let you die.
Now, you notice that the crowd at Berkeley, when they said you're going to have to pay more, there was a couple people clapping.
Yeah.
When they said let old people die, more people clapped.
Woo! I heard at least one woo.
Yes, there was a woo for that. So understand, when if you see Robert Reich out there anywhere, and he was out there the other day, we got to make sure you understand where he stands. Now, we don't know because he is now, he would be 18 years older than he was back then. So we don't know if he still holds the same opinion, being now an old man, whether he wishes to die.
Right.
We don't know that.
Yeah. Well, because we said at the time, well, eventually, and we hope it is the case with Robert Reich, he's going to live long, but at some point, is he going to stop feeling that way? And I like the way he phrased it. He says, we're not going to use that technology and medicine in the last couple of years. We're going to send you home, so you could die in a couple of months.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, wait a minute, is it years or months? With the medicine and by the way, let you. We're going to send you. We're going to make you go home so you can die.
Right. It wouldn't be let. It would
of course.
be make.
Yeah.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose.
And thank you.
Yes. All right, so here we go.
Okay.
We had played the Robert Reich audio cut where he had said, if you're going to be honest with health care, well, then you got to let old people die. And we said, understand the radicalism of the left. And then we also, had, in the same hour, just by coincidence, I guess, we had brought up about Obama way back in 2007, talking to the San Francisco Chronicle and saying, his goal was to skyrocket electricity prices and energy costs. Yeah. And he said it to them, and he was elected because he said this back. He also said this, I believe, when was this that he said it? Okay, I think it was February of 2008.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's when. Yeah, it was a video from an interview with the San Francisco Chronicle.
Right, and here's where he said it. Just so you know, we don't make stuff up here on the show.
Right.
When we reference something, and a lot of times we'll reference it. We don't play the audio cut because it's so old. But we figure once in a while we should do that. Just so you know. Here we go.
Under my plan of a cap and trade system, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket. Even, regardless of what I say about whether coal is good or bad, because I'm capping greenhouse gases, coal-powered plants, natural gas, you name whatever the plants were, whatever the industry was, they would have to retrofit their operations.
So whenever Democrats say that the entire plan is to, of alternative energy would be to lower the prices, we know that's false.
Right.
And Obama said it and was elected on that premise of skyrocketing electricity prices as being a genius.
Yeah.
This is the kind of genius we need in the presidency.
Well, the West Virginia Coal Miners Union endorsed him after he said that.
After he said that, yes.
Wow.
Now, that's
charisma.
Now, that is the kind of meeting that we wanted to be in.
Yeah.
We always, because we talked about this yesterday, that some of the bizarre things that happened were like, well, did they workshop this? Did they all sit in a meeting beforehand? Okay, what are we going to do? And we're mainly now throwing this at the Democrats of today because the Democrats of today, I mean, are insane. You know, they had to have a meeting. All right, we believe we can convince the American public that a man can be a woman if the man says so.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can't convince them, we'll intimidate them, we'll threaten them. By the way, do you think that we can justify misogyny? Can we look, we've already done it with identity politics. We've justified racism.
Yeah.
Can we justify hating women? They've had us sit in a meeting and actually talk about these things. And did somebody raise their hand and say, look, if you're going to be threatening young women by saying men should compete with them, do you think that we can convince the majority of the United States that that's a good thing to do? But the same thing, you know, as we said with the coal miners union at that time, after Obama said that, did they sit in a meeting and say, all right, who do we want? Do we want the guy that says, no, we want to use all forms of energy and keep our jobs? Or do we want to, as a union, because that's what we're about keeping people employed, do we want to vote and endorse the person who said he's going to destroy us and our jobs? Let's go with the guy that's going to destroy our jobs. Who wants it? We do. Destroy our jobs, please.
And they did.
I mean, it's just...
And then in 2012, didn't endorse either.
Right.
Now, having said that, it was Mitt Romney. So. But you want to, I mean, I'm thinking, hedge your bets after the horrible move in 2008. They didn't do that.
You would think they would.
Hey, that's the other meeting, 2012. Okay. All right, for the two of you that are left. That was the problem. They only had 2 votes.
One for Obama, one for Romney.
Yeah.
Okay, we won't endorse anyone.
Then neither. That's how that meeting went. Sadly.
Meanwhile, in other news, the Wisconsin Supreme Court issued an administrative order on Tuesday calling for Milwaukee Circuit Court Judge Hannah Duggan to be temporarily relieved. Is it Dugan or Duggan? One or the other. Dugan? Did you hear that?
I think I heard Dugan. Yeah.
Okay, Dugan to be temporarily relieved of her official duties. Dugan was arrested and charged with obstruction of an official proceeding last Friday after evidence came to light that she had shielded an illegal immigrant from federal agents, according to a criminal complaint. She was also charged with concealing an individual to prevent discovery and arrest. The order on Tuesday reads that Dugan is temporarily prohibited from exercising the powers of the circuit court judge in the state of Wisconsin. The state Supreme Court said the order will remain in effect until further order of the court. The Wisconsin court system confirmed to Fox News on Tuesday afternoon that Dugan will not return to the bench this week, adding that her caseload will be covered by other judges. Dugan is expected to be back in federal court on May 15th to face federal charges of felony obstruction of a federal agency and concealing a person to help them avoid arrest, which is a misdemeanor. Now, I just had it here a second ago. I've got so many things here. Wall Street Journal laid it out more.
Okay.
Judge Dugan, the migrant, and the law. Every dispute between the Trump administration and the judiciary these days becomes a political morality play about the looming constitutional crisis. But the facts of each case matter, and most of the time they don't support the crisis narrative. That's the way it looks to us so far in the case of last week's arrest by federal agents of Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Hannah Dugan for allegedly helping an illegal migrant evade immigration and customs enforcement. Judge Dugan was charged with obstructing a federal proceeding and concealing an individual to prevent an arrest. A federal magistrate found probable cause for the arrest upon reviewing the 13-page criminal complaint. The alleged facts, as laid out in the complaint by FBI Special Agent Lindsay Schlomer, does not look good for the judge. Judge Dugan, scheduled to preside over a hearing in the case of a Mexican national who had been charged with criminal battery. Mr. Ruiz was also in the U.S. illegally, and an immigration official had issued an arrest warrant for him. ICE deportation agents plan to arrest him at the courthouse. ICE sometimes seeks to arrest illegal migrants in the public areas of courthouses because that's where they can locate migrants accused of crimes. They are also safer than a home arrest because a migrant will have had to go through a security checkpoint. The complaint says, this is more information than we had before, Judge Dugan was very angry upon hearing the ICE plans and raised objections with other judges. Witnesses say she then invited Mr. Ruiz and his lawyer to leave through the jury door so he could avoid arrest. The deportation agents nonetheless spotted him in a public area of the courthouse and arrested him as he attempted to flee down the street. Democrats and the press are lining up to portray this as part of a Trump administration campaign against the judiciary. Wisconsin Senator Tammy Baldwin accused the administration of relentlessly attacking the judicial system, not obeying court orders, and arresting a sitting judge in a way that jeopardizes basic democratic values. But if the facts as alleged are accurate, and no one has said that they are not.
No.
The values at stake concern a judge's duty to the law. Judge Dugan is an officer of the court. The deportation agents were fulfilling their duty to detain an illegal migrant under a lawful warrant. Even if she disagrees with the federal deportation policy, Judge Dugan cannot obstruct federal officers seeking to enforce the law. It's especially concerning that in the process of allegedly helping the illegal immigrant, Judge Dugan canceled her hearing on his alleged domestic crime without informing the prosecutor or the alleged victim.
Yeah.
They were left sitting unaware in the courtroom, according to the complaint. If Mr. Ruiz had managed to escape arrest, how would his victims have received their day in court? Wow.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Wow.
Judge Dugan's lawyer said the judge wholeheartedly regrets and protests her arrest. Her case next goes to a grand jury to determine if there's probable cause for an indictment. If she's charged, she'll get her day in court. That's more than the due process a judge was willing to grant the victims in this case if she tried to help him dodge the law. Right. So, yeah, I'd seen some of the reports yesterday that the witnesses said, no, she knew what she was doing, and she went to other judges to complain.
Right.
So everything she did was premeditated.
Right.
It wasn't as if, we talked about Andrew McCarthy writing the National Review yesterday, and we said, but you're missing the point. The point is not that she is not forced to cooperate with those deportation agents. What she cannot do, though, is obstruct them from doing their job,
right?
Or, in essence, send them in one direction and send the illegal immigrant out the door,
right,
to avoid the capture.
Well, in fact, if you look at sanctuary policy is about not using your resources, to assist federal agents. Right?
Yes, exactly.
She actually used her resources to obstruct.
Yes. That you can't do.
And so that's this is the very clear difference in this kind of behavior. She could have said, I don't like this, and then gavelled that hearing, and then Ruiz could have gone out the door into the hallway. She sent ICE down the hallway and took Ruiz out the back door, out the jury door. Well, that is clear manipulation and using, again, those resources, including her power, to do that. She does have power in that courtroom. ICE was very clear, according to everything that we've learned about this, that they had no intention and no desire to disrupt that hearing. They weren't going to be in the courtroom. They were waiting outside.
And the other thing that I think really hurts is the fact that she didn't adjourn.
Yeah.
She kept the prosecutor and the victim sitting there.
That's exactly.
Because that shows, no, this wasn't a misunderstanding. You were so intent of obstructing justice,
right,
that you left the alleged victims and the prosecutor sitting in the courtroom going, what's going on?
I want to see the transcript from that hearing.
Oh, I know. I know. That really...
Because if she didn't adjourn?
She didn't adjourn.
Then what is on record? Right? I mean...
Yeah. Well, I mean, remember when she left, she didn't adjourn. When she left the courtroom, she put Ruiz in the jury box.
Right.
Now, I don't know if there were other jurors in the jury box or what, but she put him and sat him in the jury box.
Right.
But she never adjourned. She was like left the victims and the prosecutor sitting there.
Right.
And so it shows that this wasn't any type of accident. She willfully knew that she was obstructing justice at that point.
Oh, yeah.
She didn't care.
Nope.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. And interesting that as we get to the middle of this week, I mean, even if you look at Terry Moran yesterday in his interview with Trump, they're still hitting so much of the stuff that they can't win.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they're still hitting the illegal immigration stuff, and it's like, this is not a winner for you. And they keep pounding it over and over again. And the Judge Dugan thing, I don't know how you can be a Democrat and after all the information out just in the last 24 hours, still defend in any way her actions or be critical of the Trump administration for it. You can't.
Right. Again, they're not
win
denying her actions. They're defending her actions, and that's the difference. They're not saying she didn't do these things. They're saying it was okay.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We are Red Eye Radio. And we just don't give a damn about Bill Belichick and his girlfriend.
I don't care. I don't care.
The obsession with that and Sanders in the draft, and I'm just like,
I don't.
You and I
care.
You and I were having a discussion of the things that people care about that just we don't care about, that just aren't important, and we just find it fascinating what makes it. You know, whether it's social media or whether it's just the soap opera interest in it or whatever, we just sit there and go, who cares? Maybe we're just old curmudgeons and that's it.
Yeah, I mean.
You care about it, I don't care about it.
Yeah, I just don't care. I don't care. Heard the stand-up comedian talking about baseball and how he doesn't have any interest in baseball, but his buddy's telling him, hey, so-and-so, the pitcher, had a perfect game, threw a perfect game. He goes, what does that mean? And he told him what it meant. He goes, so you're saying the sport isn't boring if a perfect game means nothing happened? I wish I had the comedian's name. He deserves the credit. It's very funny. But, I mean, it's go sports. I don't.
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
There's no football.
Yeah, no, we're in that lull.
Well,
yeah.
Sorry, we don't count. Some other people we don't count the UFL.
Yeah, we don't at all.
I did mention it on the air, I think, last week. That I was watching golf or something. I went, I wonder what else is on, and it was a UFL game. And I think I got on the air that night and went, what's the purpose of it? I mean, it's been in existence now for a while. I mean, they were another league, they combined it, whatever.
Yeah.
Nobody's there.
Right.
Fox was carrying it. It's a Sunday afternoon, and you're carrying something nationally that, I'm not kidding, probably has 100 paid people in the stands of a 50,000-seat stadium.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I think of going way back to the old American Football League, you know, that eventually merged with the National Football League.
Right. They played in covered wagons. Yeah.
Well, no, but I mean, it's
not
like,
that far back.
You know, can they make it? They were still drawing. You know, maybe the first couple of the first season they weren't drawing, but by the time they got, you know, to the second, third, fourth season, they were drawing significant crowds. And I mean, I know that, you know, and so you understood what the purpose was. They were going into markets that didn't have an NFL team because there weren't as many NFL teams as there are now. But I look and I just, everything that happens in the world, one of the first things I think of is, what's the business model behind this? And I think The Rock has part to do with owning the UFL now, unless it changed or whatever. I haven't paid that much attention.
Yeah.
But the one thing they're doing, though, the one thing they are doing, because when I watched it, I went, wow, there sounds like a significant crowd there. And I'd always said to the UFL, said, look, you can place the mics right. I was a station manager of a radio station, and we used to carry sports, used to carry college basketball and minor league baseball.
Yeah.
And I made sure, whether it was baseball or whether it was especially basketball indoors, you can make 1,000 people or 500 people, you can make them sound like a lot more there on the radio.
You get some nat sound mics out there.
Yep.
You
get some natural sound microphone. You place them in the right, make sure the volumes are correct, up this one a little bit, whatever, you get in the right spot. And I used to do that, and people would say, your broadcasts sound great. Wow, that team's got a lot. It seems like there's a lot of people there. Yeah, it does seem like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Now, don't put those microphones in the men's room. That's not a good idea.
No.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to do that. So, but it was, and so when I saw the UFL this year, the first time I was hearing the crowd, I go, sounds like there's a significant crowd there. Whoa, wow. And that was a game, it looked like in maybe a 50,000-seat stadium, and there looked to be a couple of thousand people there. You know, it wasn't empty like the one I watched last week, where it was almost as if the people at the concessions came down and sat in the seats, and just nobody there. But the other one, probably, there could have been 5,000, 6,000 people in this 50, and they made it sound like if you didn't see the stadium, if they kept the cameras low, so you couldn't see the crowd. But I mean, part of the beauty of watching football is watching the crowd go crazy.
You want to see the crowd,
And when they show, for example, they'll take the end zone shot, looking at the team lining up, and you look at the other end zone. The end zone of the stands completely empty.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is the purpose? And I guess, is it that media is so fractured right now that there's actually a place where you believe you can make money from sponsors? But if nobody's in the stadium watching it, how many people across the country really have an interest in the UFL?
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to draw in people to watch in order to get advertisers on board. That's the entire business model of that. And I don't know how you do that.
I think they should bring John Taffer in for football rescue.
Yeah, come in and redesign the whole thing and call it the NFL. It's
Showing if Tapper come in, I have no idea what to do with this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to scream. I want to scream at everybody, but I don't think that's going to work.
That's not going to work. I'm greatly interested in the business model. You and I both are. I'm very intrigued in the business model of all forms of entertainment, or how anything that gets our attention, right, or that seeks our attention for any amount of time, and that's the whole point. And you just mentioned it. It's fractured. It's all over the place. Everybody has a podcast. By the way, you can hear the Red Eye Radio podcast on the Red Eye Radio app. It's free. Also on podcast platforms, pretty much all the major platforms. We're there. Make sure you listen every day. That's all we ask. But celebrities have podcasts. I mean, it's Theo Vaughn, by the way. His podcast is just, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. He's got so many great guests on. And there was a time, but I don't know if he still does this, when he would just rant. He's very funny, but he would just rant on things and no guest. But he's getting A-listers now as guests, and those things monetize greatly. I mean, they crush it. A lot of them, I would dare say, a number of comedians or known people are getting a really healthy paycheck from monetizing their podcasts. And so I'm always intrigued on, well, how does that work? Or musicians, right? I mentioned one of my neighbors. He's a guitar tech for big names right now. He's working with the band Chicago. And, it's what really it comes down to what people do for a living, or what we're willing to pay for, what we're willing to give our time to and our attention to, and things like that. So when something comes out of, like the UFL, it's, my gosh, how long is it going to be around?
Well, when I just happened to read about it yesterday, and I was scanning, and I saw about 30 seconds of it, and it was the women's LPGA, the women's golf. I think they need men to be in it. No, but it was held at a golf course in Woodlands, Texas, and they said
down near Houston.
Yeah, and they said no crowds.
Yeah,
it's like it felt like the criticism was it felt like an amateur event. Apparently, they switched it from something else.
Oh, wow!
And the other thing is, one of the problems is, you don't know any of the people in the American audience. You have so many Asian women. I think like the top 5 in there that played in the playoff, there were no Americans in there. Very few, and so that's been what the problems. And they're like, no matter what you say, if the golf, and that's why the LPGA has become more worldwide. They have tournaments all over the world, but it's not as, probably in the United States, it's not as popular as it was maybe in the 70s because you just don't have the women names. You have some, but when you have the tournaments where it's all South Koreans leading, and it's not a racist thing, it's just you don't know who they are.
Right.
They get they don't get publicity here, and as we know, for example, in golf, when you look at whether it's the Ryder Cup or the President's Cup or the Solheim Cup for women, which is the United States against them, people love that. It becomes some, nationalism comes in and patriotism comes in, and you root for it. And that's some of the most crazy golf out there because the fans are going nuts.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to watch.
Right.
Not exciting to watch if there's no people watching a golf tournament. If they're not actually there.
Right.
And so when you look at that too, and you mentioned everything I look at now, it's probably the first thought that goes through my head. On anything I see, I go, what's the business model? How do they make that work? And you mentioned podcast, something that came up on YouTube for me, and I've watched a lot of it, and it's called "This Podcast Is Making Me Thirsty." And it's these guys, and it's not a sophisticated podcast. They're like holding microphones or in rooms, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not the greatest sound quality, but they bring on is all the minor characters from Seinfeld.
Right.
You know, it's like and I'm not even it's some of the most popular ones in there, but it's you go, oh, I remember. Oh, that person was on. Whoa, whoa! They brought on the actor who played Larry, the black manager of the restaurant, who always is just staring at them. He comes over and says, "You boys better need to calm down." And they talk to him, and they go through how was the process? How did you get it? And like I said, all minor characters, but because Seinfeld is so popular, these people could go to any Comic-Con around the country and probably have a living for the rest of their lives just signing autographs and talking about a particular Seinfeld episode. And I'm wondering, okay, you're on this podcast, but the podcast doesn't have 100,000 people watching it.
Well,
it may only have 4,000 or 5,000 over a period of a couple of years.
That's what makes it more interesting. I can see Jerry, in a lot of places, right? And we love Jerry Seinfeld. But you don't get to see those people that were in those episodes in that role because the show, there were so many moments in that show over the years that created, catchphrases and everything else. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And moments, no soup for you. My daughter just got my wife a pair of socks that says "No soup for you," because my wife makes these two different soups a lot, right? And my daughter loves both of those soups. And she's always, "Mom, will you make some, so I can put it in a bowl and take it home, right? And have it for lunch for the week." And it was like, well, I don't have the time or whatever else. Anyway, she had to get those "No soup for you" socks for my wife. And it's one of these, things where, for me, like my neighbor, who's a guitar tech, he's worked with Springsteen, Metallica, everybody, Indigo Girls, James Taylor, the band Chicago right now. And that's the behind-the-scenes thing, the story, the backstory of how all this stuff is put together, to me, is greatly intriguing. Again, along with the business model of what gets our attention. I think that's where YouTube is really, the rise of YouTube has been people who aren't famous. There are people out there that weren't famous at all that are crushing it far beyond what celebrities are doing on YouTube. And a lot of that is because, well, this is, where this is their Hollywood. YouTube is their Hollywood. This is where they made their name. We can see the celebrities in other places, And I love that. But it's always intriguing for me to look at a business model of anything, of all right, how do you make that work and make it viable in the marketplace? I still scratch my head on UFL. I don't know how for how long that is. And maybe, like you said, I think that's what you were implying with your question, because things are so fragmented, can they make it work in today's world, or is there something we're missing on the math?
What's the purpose after being around 5 or 6 years consolidating and still having empty stadiums?
Right.
A podcast.
If you're not drawing people.
A podcast, for example, very low overhead.
Right.
A football team isn't low. I don't care how you do it. Remember they played in 2 stadiums for a couple of for one of the first year of whatever incarnation it started out as.
Right.
And you look at it and you go, like, when you're in your 5th year, what's your business model if there's no people there?
Right. NASCAR, the drop in NASCAR viewership and attendance, and NASCAR's been around for a long time.
Of course, on the podcast for Seinfeld, they had Phil Morse on, Jackie Childs.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he was great. Phil Morse, who played Jackie Childs, is the son of Greg Morse from Mission Impossible.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. When driving, you need to manage the space around your vehicle so that there's enough space to allow you to adjust when traffic conditions change. The space ahead of your vehicle is the most important and one of the easiest to monitor and adjust as needed. One rule of thumb is to allow at least 1 second for each 10 feet of vehicle length at speeds below 40 miles per hour. At greater speeds, add an additional second. It's impossible to keep other drivers from tailgating you, but there are some things you can do to make it safer, such as increasing your following distance, avoiding quick lane changes, and slowing down. There are also several things you should do to ensure that there is plenty of space between the side of your vehicle and other vehicles. Don't hug the center line, avoid hugging the right side of the road, and avoid traveling alongside other vehicles in strong winds, especially crosswinds. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Talking about business model, let's talk political model. What's the political model for the Democrats? There it is. Schumer kicks off Democrat all-nighter marathon, railing against Trump's 100 days. He's being a mob boss. It really is amazing how they just, as a political consultant, you could spend a year with them telling them what they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
Or you actually 10 minutes telling them it's not tough if you're a political consultant, but I don't think they're listening to anybody right now.
They are.
They're just off. They're just so full of rage, unbelievable rage, that they're not doing anything right, and they keep digging a bigger hole. And it's got to kill them when they look and they go, oh, okay, look, all the polls show Donald Trump's going down. Yeah, but you're going down further. Donald Trump still beats you.
Yeah.
and they just continue to make the same mistake after the same mistake after the same mistake,
and they change nothing. They keep going further in the same direction.
Yeah.
Wow.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer kicked off a Democratic all-nighter.
Okay. I hope we don't have to see pictures of Schumer in pajamas.
Well, at least I didn't have to say a Democrat nooner.
Yeah.
Even though I just did.
Well, we work nights. So for those thinking it means something otherwise, we work nights. That's all that means.
Schumer said it's been 100 days of corruption and cronyism.
Mm-hmm.
This is a threat to our democratic republic. Yeah. He's acting like a king, a mob boss, a wannabe dictator. This is no different from what they lost on.
No, in fact, the mob boss thing goes back to the first term. I mean, this is Chuck doesn't have anything new in the bag. Well, the Democrats don't either. But Chuck, for some reason, sounds really old when he says it.
Well, let me ask you, is he trying to, is right now, for Schumer to say that, because one of the things And it's the most fascinating thing since the election has happened. I still think it's the most fascinating news out there, which is where is the Democratic Party going to go? Where are Democrats going to go? Where, they haven't changed anything.
Right.
And we have gone through all the different, in-house focus groups that they've held, where they all sit together and they do a podcast and they try to figure out what's going on. Mm-hmm. And you and I watch it, and we're watching it at different places together. Right. Your home and my home, right. Screaming the same thing. You suck on the issues.
Yeah.
And they just will never approach that. It's, we need new, fresh blood to do what? Well, we need to explain it a different way. We're not selling the message. We need to sell the message of where we stand in a different way. You mean you need to change the issues? You need to be for something else or against something that you're now for? And what is it? They can't tell you.
No.
And so I really wonder when Chuck Schumer does that right now, especially after he agreed to the CR, whether he's doing it, that Schumer's doing it, not to attract independents.
Yeah.
But he's just trying to shore up his own base in Congress. And the base Democrats.
Yeah.
The base Democrats right now.
Right. I think there's a lot to that. But it's clear with David Hogue and what's going on there, creating a rift. The radicals want out with the old, in with the new. They want the more radical, younger group of people on Capitol Hill running for, again, David Hogue, the idea to raise money so that more radicals can primary against other Democrats. Well, you saw an example of that with Jimmy Kimmel, right? He had your congressperson on. She's a rising star, Gary. And
you notice she's become a rising star since they annexed my precinct.
That's right.
Not annexed. Annexed.
Yeah. She's one day going to make a point about,
About me?
About you.
You think she'll talk about me because I criticize her?
I think she will.
Is she single?
I think she is, isn't she? No? Wasn't there a video of her saying something about dating? I don't know if she's single.
Oh, yeah, I think they play it. Yeah.
I think the video implied to me, I just got from that video that she is. But
well, if she's not, God help him. Go ahead.
Yeah, but or you might be radical too. Here's
I'm making the assumption it would be a he.
How dare you?
How dare me?
I
apologize.
Okay.
See, I said I never apologize. I just did.
You just
all right.
did.
Go ahead.
To her of all people, for something that really wasn't even something. But Kimmel also had the moment of observing Schumer, going, oh my gosh, we're doomed. And what is that? That's, because Kimmel's also a radical. For those that don't know, Jimmy Kimmel is an alleged comedian who ABC lets cry on the air late at night. And so he's part of that because you need the pop culture thing. Clinton wouldn't be Clinton without Arsenio Hall. They believe they're a big part of it. They believe, Kimmel believes, he's going to change the world. You mock Schumer, and then, of course, you bring on your congressperson and talk about her, and then, of course, he's all, cuddly and kind and everything else. It's clear where the radicals want to go. They want the new blood. They want the young people because what they do see and what they really are concerned with, and we know this because Hogue spoke about it, and that's people in his age group, his demographic, who have abandoned the party, a great number of them. And I mean, they always had the young voters, right? And they skew older now, which, by the way, had me wondering, just a side note, any Democrats going to be on board for doing away with the tax on Social Security since so many of the Democratic voters are seniors?
They claim that every single Democrat's going to vote against the budget.
Yeah, okay.
Vote no.
I heard, I think was it Dana Perino? She thought maybe a couple, maybe in the Senate, Fetterman might support tax cuts in general. She wasn't speaking about Social Security tax, but we'll see. But this is what they want. They want their. If you think about everything that they could go after, Trump on, it's not the issues. It's their agenda. They keep pushing their agenda. Now,
well, they're not the things that they hit Trump on. The majority of what they hit him on. I mean, they may hit him on economic stuff soon.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what the GDP numbers will be today, but if they're negative or low, they're going to hit him on that.
Yeah.
But the rest of what they hit him on are stuff they can't win. The illegal immigration, the radical transgender movement.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that, 87% of Democrats want Garcia brought back to the United States.
Yeah.
That's how radical they can't win that one. They are just so incredibly radical. And when you think of the two parties right now, there is a kind of civil war going on in the Democratic Party right now, but none of it's on the issues.
Right.
None of it's on the issues, unless you want to say the issue with Chuck Schumer is the fact that he voted for a continuing resolution that funds everything that Biden won funded through the end of the fiscal year, which, again, makes no sense, as we told Democrats, and you've got Republicans to vote for the Democrat priorities, for the Biden priorities through the end of the year, and it was a Republican win.
Right.
Which is what?
Yeah.
And there they are infighting about something that they had agreed to last year.
Right.
The Democrats all agreed on. So it's not that we see like David Hogue, he's not talking about the issues.
No.
He's not saying Democrat. He's simply saying we need younger people selling the message because nobody's paying attention to the old people.
Right.
It's all we need a different physical image. When you see the Democrat strategist the other day, we need a strong masculine image to run against Trump.
Mm-hmm.
We need a strong masculine, which is why we said Pritzker, because he's bigger.
Yeah.
And when I talked about that, the other day, look, we're not playing the identity politics. We're making fun of them playing the identity politics and trying to mirror what they're thinking of.
Right.
Okay, well, Bernie is too old. That's what Pritzker's thinking. Bernie's too old. AOC, she's wearing herself out. Nobody
Right.
wants to pay attention to her anymore.
Right.
And I'm Pritzker, and I'm strong because I'm big. I look strong and intimidating, and I'm a white man. And that's what they need.
Yeah.
You're
right.
Everything is identity. Everything with them.
It is. And Tim Walz finally responded to that comment that we need more masculine people to run for office. And he screamed, well, I'm masculine, and ripped open his blouse and said, see? But
on the other hand, Republicans are completely different. Republicans basically have stayed united on the issues, even though we know there's a great difference of opinion. They're just trying to hold on the coalition.
Yeah,
and
right.
You have a ton of Republicans that are saying, well, we're going to give Trump some leeway here on the tariffs, whatever. But if it starts going the wrong way, expect Republicans to start jumping ship, and they're not going to agree with anything. I mean, not that they're not going to agree with anything. They're not going to be able to get much past when it comes to budgets. And you saw the beginning of it yesterday with Chip Roy, with the Republican leadership coming out with the fact that, well, okay, we need to pay for all this stuff, so let's have a tax on cars, which Chip Roy responded, what in the freaking hell are we doing here?
Yeah.
Do you know, we're the Republican Party. Do we even know? What Chip Roy has to understand is this is no longer, the Republican Party is no longer, and if they fail on DOGE, which isn't it's not what Musk did, because we think it's wonderful, and we think that if they end up cutting $100 billion, that's great. But if it doesn't show up in the budget, Republicans have lost the high ground on spending. It's done.
It's done. If they can't do it now after DOGE,
right,
you can't do it. You'll never do it.
Yep. And that's the challenge there, and that's why Chip Roy's like, what do you do? We're supposed to be cutting, not sitting, okay, we're not going to tax the rich. We're going to tax the person who has a car.
Right.
What? Yeah. What are you doing?
Right.
And so that's the problem that they have, right now. Republicans really don't know where to go, and they're waiting out. All the economic news is what Republicans are waiting for. How they will split, I don't know. But I believe they will split.
The Atlanta Fed GDP Now forecast updated just yesterday, negative 2.7. The median forecast is still at a positive 0.4. Now, median means half of the analysts believe it'll be higher than that, and half believe it'll be lower than that.
Did you see the high end on it?
No, I didn't see the high end on it.
Yeah, somebody sent me something yesterday saying, you guys are wrong. It's 2.8%. I'm like, there's nobody saying 2.8%.
Well, I haven't seen 2.8 anywhere. I've seen negative. The closest to that is negative 2.7.
No, we did back in December of last year.
Yeah, well,
December. Yeah,
they were using December.
They were using old figures. So
but no, I haven't seen any analysts say that.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I have no idea. I don't know how it.
If it comes in that's strong,
then Trump's going to get a ton of leeway from
you get leverage all day with your own party on that one. So I hope it's positive for all the reasons, but I haven't seen anybody. I haven't heard that from multiple sources in terms of it being that strong. Look, I hope it is.
I hope it's 10%.
For every reason. Yeah. Well, I wish it would be.
I don't think we've never, I don't care who's in office, we've never rooted for a bad economy.
No.
Because real people get hurt.
Yes. Yeah. No, we want growth.
Yeah.
Yep.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Why? Our show ends in just a little over an hour. And when our show ends, well, we record our entire show, and it becomes our podcast, which you can listen to on our Red Eye Radio app. So if you can only catch a couple of hours overnight, you can catch all of the show anytime you want.
That's right.
And if you can't listen live on one of our great radio stations for whatever reason, we also stream all 5 hours live on our Red Eye Radio app.
It's all right here on the app.
Coming up following the top of the hour, this story got some play. It should get more play because it shows a connection to ISIS. An ISIS suspect was arrested in the New Orleans Bourbon Street terror attack that killed 14. Iraqi authorities confirmed the arrest. This goes all the way back to Iraq.
Yeah, wow.
So we'll get to that story coming up following the top of the hour.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.